Hello and welcome to one more episode of Extends by Strandex project. Today I'm very happy to be joined by Dr. Sanja Kojic. Hi Sanja.
Thank you, Adrianos. It's nice to be with you.
So, do you think it's better if everyone gives their own backstory? So, in your own words, if you would like, you can just tell something to the audience about you.
I finished my studies at the University of Novi Sad, all of them, so master degree, also PhD degree. And during PhD degree, I also started to be involved in different kind of research project. I started I had a scholarship from the ministry at the beginning. Later, I was volunteering my teaching duties, but working as a researcher. And then finally, I started my teaching duties.
Great, so all of your degrees were locally here in the University of Novi Sad, right?
Yes, degrees here, but for my PhD experimental part, I did in France in a company called Helvesis, one of the newer established companies with a lot of sister companies. So it has as a cluster of companies. So they have a big production facilities, and they are all in microfluidic field. So since the microfluidic at that time was new in Serbia, I did all experimental parts there, and then I brought with me over the project some equipment, so now we can do a lot of microfluidic experiments here.
Yeah, that's great because also as a field, not only I suppose it was new in Serbia, but also it's a field that comes from various other fields. So many people know it a bit, not a lot. So it's a little tricky to start it.
Yeah, it was heavy at the beginning because at first you only had access to research papers, or there weren't any books or any more advanced literature than just separate scientific papers. The whole field is actually relatively new, but it was, from the other side, it was really interesting because, as you said, all different type of educational profiles were there. So you could encounter with mechanical engineer, material engineer, electro
Yeah,
engineer,
everybody wanted to
biologist.
contribute something or to check if their thing can be done in microfluidics. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was like a really big party of all different people and profiles.
And it's great to see that it's still expanding. So it's not that it was something that boomed for 5 years and now we have forgotten about it.
Yes, it was over my imagination that can be expanded this much, but it slowed down a bit. So, of course, the research is now more steady. There are no such big fluctuations at the
Yeah,
beginning, but it's still interesting.
that's great. So currently you are still teaching at the university or are you involved with projects? How is your daily life, let's say, at work?
I I'm teaching now at the university. I'm teaching a lot of practical subject. I'm still having a lot of laboratory exercises for the students, not only classes, not only lectures, but also a lot of practical work in the lab.
And also, if I understand correctly, you have either organized or created an action. Tell us a bit more about this, of course. That you also have some students that are volunteering with you in the lab and experiments, right?
Yes, some 2016, 2017, we established an engineering creativity center over Erasmus Plus project, and we keep it running. It got its shape like 5 years ago, more or less. So we have a legal framework for volunteering at the university. So it's not a faculty organization. It covers all university fields.
So that
And
also means students from other departments as well, that they might be
other
interested.
departments, other faculties not related only to engineering.
That's
We
great.
also had a girl from journalism with us. We had some designers with us. So it's not obligatory to be an engineer and to be our student to be in the center. Of course, the majority of the people are still engineers
Yeah, that's
because of the
logical. Yeah.
facilities we have. They are most interesting about them. But also other people went through the volunteering center.
And in your opinion, what's, let's say, if you could describe that this center does this, and this, what would you say is the most important thing that it enables the students to do, all the volunteers?
By my opinion, it's a kind of safe simulation of a real work environment. It doesn't have such strict consequences like at the real jobs, but you are still learning about the working ethics, about behavior, communication, not only pure experimental part. You are also learning how to behave in a business environment.
Yeah, that's great. And also, I think it's important because one way or another, let's say by the time you finish your studies and you, let's say, decide on what your career you will take, you might have 5 or 10 steps between it, even on totally conflicting environments versus your degrees. So I think that's a very important skill to have.
Yeah, so that's from my side, my opinion, that's the most important thing. Students also emphasize one other thing is that they can switch the tasks, so they can actually search the field they want to work with or work in. So when they come to the center, they often don't know what they want to do. So they are searching their profession, they are learning some things at the official education, but that still doesn't give them a clue how the work will look like.
Yeah, it gives you the field, but not what you can do in the field. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true. I also had I will not call it a problem, but I also had the same situation with my studies that, okay, we're being taught over 4 years of bachelor's over the entire field, spanning electronics, mathematics for electronics, simulations, the signal processing, antennas, all of this. And then at the end of the day, we're like, okay, but like, what do I do? Where do I go and what will they ask me? Because if I go to somewhere that I'm making practical electronics, obviously they will not ask me about the math. If I go somewhere that I need to design the electronics, then I do not need the soldering skills or the creating skills. So that's great that you can actually have an environment that, you can pretty much accommodate everything.
Yeah, yes, because it's really flexible, and basically in volunteering center or engineering creativity center officially, there is only one rule, and the rule is to be honest. So everything is possible, or I'll try to complete all of their wishes and requirements, but they need to be honest, but first honest to themselves, then to me. So stand in front of the mirror and have a good chit chat with yourself,
Yeah.
and then you transfer the answer to me. So that's the only work that volunteering center can work, because volunteering center doesn't have an account. Nobody is paid for, not the mentors, not the students. So there is zero money. It's a zero money flow, but it still works, and works good for over 6 years now.
Speaking of mentors and such, because many people don't really know. So, to give a bit of a backsplash, usually in academia, the more progressed, let's say, you are in your degrees, the more access and autonomy you have. So, basically, when you're at your bachelor's level, at least in STEM, in applied sciences, and you need to run some experiments, you have to only do them during your assigned classwork with somebody there so that you don't particularly mishandle equipment that's very expensive or that needs specific calibrations, etc. Because there are many people that are using the same equipment aside from you, and if you break it down, then it will have a ripple effect. Then when you have your masters, you're a bit more open to that. You can maybe have some areas that are dedicated to master students that you can work yourself, etc. So generally that's how it works. Now you're telling me that there are mentors, there are volunteers. The volunteers can even be, the student volunteers, they can even be from totally different departments. So To what extent do you actually give them hands-on experience, if you're giving them any?
They are all starting with someone in the lab. So at the beginning, nobody is alone, and you don't just get a task. You also get explanation and demonstration how the task is performed. So usually, first time I'm working the task and the students are watching. Second time, I am doing the task, but asking them to do some easiest
Minor, yeah.
parts. The third time, I am the one who is watching, but always helping and checking everything. So that's like the third run. On the fourth run, I am just a watcher, just an
Around,
observer.
yeah.
They can perform the task of themselves, and like in 10 runs or some more, I'm in the lab but doing something else, or I'm dedicated to other students, but I'm around just in case of need, or like other mentors, doesn't need to be me. And when they have a lot of experience and enough experience by the mentor's judgment, then they can be even alone in the lab. Then they have access to the lab on their own. So
And the equipment.
and the
Well,
equipment,
that's great.
like they are a PhD level. So the level at the center is measured by the time being in the center, not your actual education degree.
No, that's great, and I want to emphasize this because around the world, in many countries, there are some kind of internship opportunities, volunteering opportunities, etc. Then, when you, let's say, have interest about, usually they're just 1 week or 2 weeks. It's just kind of like a seminar, and maybe you just tour a lab, and that's it.
Now, this is
And then you're like,
completely
okay, but like, what did I learn out of this?
Now, this is completely other thing. You actually spend a lot of time in the center. Students, they can join the center the moment they get their student book, the index. So they can start from the first year of studies. Usually they are at least second when they really start. And then they spend sometimes like 5, 10, even 20 hours per week. Of course, not every week and not
Yeah, according to
constantly,
their
according
schedule,
to
yeah.
their other schedule. But they spend a lot of time doing actual research, participating in the research project activities, or some minor task or even major task. So by the time they reach their bachelor level, they can have experience of 2 or 3 years in
Yeah,
the
that's great.
center. So it's a massive experience for a student. So usually there are between 5 and 15 students that can use at least half of the equipment in the lab without any mentorship.
That's great, and I suppose they're also at some point of seniority, let's say, of experience. They can also participate in training the next cohorts, etc. At some
Yeah,
point,
it's
or at
like
least be around. Yeah. Speaking
transferring duties.
speaking of the numbers and the next cohorts, etc. Do you have a rough number of how many students are willing to join, let's say, or at least to see what it is about per year? And also, how do you actually communicate this to them? How do they know about this?
Usually, um, okay, first, there are about 50 students, roughly, like 20 more or 20 less per year, that are interested about being a volunteer, which is actually a lot if you consider that the full generation is between 60 and 80 students. So it's a really high
Yeah.
number. Of course, not all of them become actual volunteers. So the number is decreasing, about 20 to 30 of them, so let's half of them try to be a volunteer. And out of these 20, 30, about 5 to 10 really stays in the center for a long time until the employment. Some of them even pop by after the employment to participate in some events in the center. And um, of course, nobody is volunteer forever.
Yeah, that's logical.
Uh,
Life
so
catches up on you.
exactly. So the center doesn't give them only the opportunity to learn. I'm also using my personal contacts to help them find an employment or continue the studies in the field they want. So not only me, all the mentors are using private connections to make them easier to first make a decision what they want to do, to help them make a decision. Of course, the decision is only theirs. It's not mixing in the decision, just showing the opportunities what they can have.
And how do you every year promote it? Or if you don't promote it, I don't know, but like, do you organize set events? Is there like a career day, something?
We participate at the Students' Conference of Biomedical Engineers. They call me every year to have a presentation about the center. Then I talk about, like, I don't know, 30 minutes or something like that. And I like to show the statements of the students. They were
Yeah.
participants in the volunteering center, so their own words. Sometimes if we have researchers night, they are going with me to present our project, so the students can also talk to them how they enter the center. I also mention it on my classes or during my teaching duties. So that's another way. But I think most of them learn about the students from previous generations.
Ah,
So now there was a year or two when we highly promoted the center, like on every event, researchers night, scientists night, or other stuff, and have official trainings and announcement. Now it's usually functions through a simple Viber group. Everybody who is interested in the participating, they are members of one Viber group, and then in that Viber group, mentors are just setting up the task. Like tomorrow, I'm going on scanning electron microscope. I can teach 4 students, and they
yeah,
just first 4 students who like
yeah.
the message, they show up
Good.
at the night at the scheduled time, and they actually booked their term. That's how it starts. Then when they are already trained, then we make a separate Viber group for a different experiment, and then they are running the research. And if they want, they write scientific paper, participate in the conference. If they want, they promote science in the different kind of events. If they want, they just gain experiences and they go to different master studies or.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, this was my next question, and I'm very glad that you also included it because I was about to ask, yeah, okay, that's great. We have a center. It gives them hands-on experience on things that generally students don't have access to. But given the fact that it's not a vocational thing, they will not get a degree that, okay, you participated for these hours and it counts for your future employment. What can we give them that's concrete? And I was about to ask, is there a chance for them to be included in scientific papers and conferences, which is the number one metric, let's say, for our research output?
Yes, for the scientists currently, it's the main metric. They are also can get an education about entrepreneurship, how to establish their own companies. If they are interested, they are transferred to another organization that deals with entrepreneurship education, but they have that's also everything is free in that organization too, so they can run for a company, they can go through the trainings how to establish a company, how to run a company, and so on, if that's their field of interest. So the center is just like access point to all other networking centers that are established at the university, but also at our network all over the world, our project partners. So usually, if they reach the PhD level and they want to stay here, they can travel on a secondment, they can participate in the research project as researchers during their PhD degree. So even before official employment as a researcher, if they are doing the PhD, then they are also eligible to participate in the project. Also, they're always, all of them, so even juniors and seniors, can participate in the summer schools, winter schools, or different workshops that are organized over the research project that we have. So it's also a good opportunity for them to participate and listen the lectures and some real laboratory work for other scientists all over the world that come to our lab.
Wow. I mean, you have painted such a nice picture, and me personally, being a researcher, in my previous years, I would have liked to also have been part of something like this. But let's keep it real. What's the catch? What doesn't work?
Doesn't work is not, it's the time. Currently, the time is the only thing that is critical, because mentors are also not paid for these activities, and they are also volunteering in the center. And since all mentors need to have official employment and actually do a lot of stuff for their salaries, they don't have the whole day, so they cannot guide 30, 40 students.
Yeah, that's true.
So the ones who have the biggest understanding about the time frames that we can, or time slots that we can dedicate to them, those are the ones who succeed the most. That's not something that we are proud of, but that's just
Yeah, but
necessity.
it's a necessary restriction because, okay, I also know how the employment system in Serbia works with the amount of set hours that you need to fulfill as a teaching assistant or as a teacher. Then on top of that, you have your other obligations such as writing, composing, etc. So, yeah, it takes a big chunk of your daily time, not just your
Exactly.
contract
So
time. So, yeah.
a lot of time slots are like Sunday morning or Saturday evening, or we are setting up experiment through the weekend or
Yeah.
through the holiday. But if they are also good with these time slots, then they don't have issues.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's real. It's reality. Nothing is perfect in reality. So,
No,
yeah.
no, nothing is perfect,
But
but
yeah, but dragging from that, how would you see it in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years? Do you have any set plans for it? Are you going to maybe have some dedicated funding for it? Are you going to spin it into a company or, let's say, some kind of service provider? How do you see it in the future?
in the future, for sure, it will stay zero funding, so no funding dedicated to the center. But that doesn't mean that center doesn't have funds. Center has funds through the projects, through different projects and tasks these students are realizing. So
Yeah, for consumables, for
for
equipment, etc.
consumables, for
Yeah.
traveling, for conferences, for open access fees, for everything that's part of a research project. They actually, by their own work, they earn open access fee, or they earn travel to conference or some other consumables or different stuff. So that's paid from the project. They are working for free, but also they are not paying anything for
Yeah.
their own research. So that's how it's balanced. About growing the center, that will depend of number of mentors who are interested in, because every year there are a bit more students, but there are also a bit more mentors. So it's not only new for the students, it's new for the mentors, because this is actually this is not the type of organization that was established with a strict business plan or to follow some idea. It was established by the group needs, and but with what we want to do and how we want to spend our time. So for me, it's a crucial time. It's a crucial thing for being a volunteer. You need to like what you're
Yeah,
doing.
totally.
So the mentors who are participating in volunteering center, they are all dedicated lecturers, but also dedicated to growing a young person and set them on their way. So I think I can never decide when somebody who spent a lot of time in the center, am I more sad or more happy for that person when I see them leaving,
Yeah.
when I see it leaving. So it's a touching moment.
Yeah, but it's also like a maturity. It's not- Okay, a circle closes, obviously. But with this input, you have actually enabled them to become something better in the future and be a little better, at least in their work. So,
Yeah, I'm sad because we spend a lot of good time. It's because it's not only work. There is also uh, chatting. Actually, we become friends. It's not like official relationship like lecturer student. It's more like collaborator relationship. So we actually become real colleagues.
yeah. And also, given the fact that it's not billed by the hour or something like this, also helps to ease it out because, okay, you have a task to observe, you have a task to do, but if you do it in the next available opportunity, it's still not such a big deal as me not delivering something in time in my work. So, yeah, I guess it eases it out. With that, it's time for us to play a game.
Okay.
So the game is called Out with Five. Basically, the game consists of 5 questions that I'm asking across all of my guests. They're not right or wrong answers, but they're also not questions of the field. So, you know, it's just a benchmark for the audience.
Okay.
So, starting with number 1, who is the person, it can be dead or alive, it doesn't matter, that inspires you the most?
Sergei Rachmaninov,
In what sense?
composer and
Yeah.
pianist, and I start my day usually, which means at least 100 times per year, with Rachmaninoff's second concerto.
Okay, that's an interesting suggestion for the audience. Question number 2. If you had the attention of the entire world for up to 5 minutes, what would you say?
I think people should be reminded how to be humans, because nowadays a lot of focus is in progress, in benefits, in money, in earnings. I think we need to just go one step back to the basics, to being human, to help others. Just if you see somebody needs help and you can help, do it. There are no restrictions. Nobody will say you no.
Yeah, that's great. And also, like, it's basically what you're saying. It's the little things that we lose in the process of all of these information, time management, and requirements that are,
Globalization.
yeah, that are just stuck on our head and falling over our head constantly. That, for example, okay, you can see someone crossing the street with some extra shopping, just lend a hand, doesn't cost
Exactly,
you anything.
or keep the door open for two more people, or
Yeah.
just simple things than that. And if you do at least one of these kind things per day, then it was a good day. So don't ever let that day passes and that you didn't do any of these
Yeah, that's great.
things.
Personally, I also like to say, okay, I order a coffee. I will start with good morning, not with my order. So yeah, it's in the similar
Exactly.
concept. Great. Question number 3. What can we expect from you next? Next, you can position as far as in the future as you like.
As far as in the future. Next, I'm currently learning Chinese. So my next step in the career is to try to teach trilingually. So
Oh, wow.
in Serbian, English, and Chinese.
That's a very, very tough target. I
It
hope
is.
I hope you'll get it as fast as possible.
That's why you said it can be long term.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's up to you.
it is
Yeah.
long term.
No, but still, it's a great initiative. Number 4. What is one final thought you want to leave our audience with?
Life is beautiful.
Oh, but do we need to remind ourselves that, or do you
Yes,
think
we
we?
do. I
Okay,
think with this level of depressions all around ourselves, I think we need a reminder.
okay. So please set a reminder for every day, according with your alarm clock or whatever. That life is beautiful.
Life's beautiful.
And lastly, is there anything else you would like to say before we close out that we haven't covered?
Thank you a lot for guiding this conversation. Thank you a lot for being part of the project. And for me, it's a really big experience to have different people with different cultures. I think mix of people is always better than a one sterile environment. I think we make each other richer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that even with the fact that our different cultural backgrounds taught us involuntarily different things and different approaches to the same field, I think even that can actually add to tackling a problem and solving it, you know, more cohesively.
I completely agree, but not only business wise, also
No, okay,
personal
but
wise.
this is like 80% of our time, that's why I went there, but yeah.
True.
Great. It was so nice having you here.
Thank you.
And until next time, have a good day.